Hello and welcome to the vlog. It is an absolutely beautiful day, blue skies, a little bit of overcast, sunshine beaming down. It's nice and warm. In fact, it's so nice, the man is out there cutting the grass, and the forecast for the next couple of days is also very good. So I'm going to take this opportunity to tidy up the rust spots on the roof. Now, this can't be a full roof repaint because I don't have a suitable tin of paint to do the whole roof, but what I do want to do is just treat and touch up the little spots of rust to stop them getting any worse. I'll start by showing you the scale of the problem. Here's just one of the many little rusty spots, nasty brown blemishes bubbling up all over the roof. Some are big, some are small, but they're all unsightly, and in many cases bigger than the visible rust would have you believe, with the paint rising over the rust like the sides of a volcano hiding the erupting interior. Before they get any worse, I want rid of them, as it's got to the point where it's very annoying and unsightly. 3 years ago there was just one spot, which I touched up successfully while moored just outside Birmingham, albeit I obviously didn't have any matching paint, but it's not rusted through since, so I intend to use the same process again. To start with, I assembled an array of bits for the task. Furtan rust treatment, tried and tested, red oxide primer, which is pretty standard on narrowboat painting jobs, and there's the paint I used last time. I even have fresh unused paintbrushes, which is rare, plus my multi-tool for sanding and a load of sandpaper as well. That tool turned out to be perfect when teamed with a carbide-tipped blade, which is rough and hard-wearing, much like myself. It cut through the raised paint and rust, as well as the layers of paint around each spot, giving me a cleared surface to work on. The fine control of the multi-tool's speed was a blessing here, as it meant very precise chipping away at the problem. Unfortunately, it's only when you get on your hands and knees and start peering closely at the roof that you realise just how many tiny little spots there are coming up, and it's going to be no good if I just treat the big ones if I'm going to end up repainting the roof in its entirety. They all needed locating and sorting. This was kind of fun and kind of tedious at the same time. Rather satisfying, like picking at a spot. It took a while, but eventually it seemed all the spots had been sanded back, and although you can't really see it from the image, the roof was now a mass of blobs. Of course, a certain amount of dust and old paint chips had been left on the roof, and I didn't want those going in the canal, so as far as was practical, I swept them up diligently. These metal hooky things, to use the nautical terminology, are a pain. I took the one on the other side off ages ago because of rust, and now this one's gone the same way, presumably in part to them being made of different metals, which always causes corrosion, and part due to water getting trapped under there. So this one needed to come off too, and I started, not unreasonably, by trying to unscrew it, only for the screw head to snap clean off. Then I tried the other one, which was stuck solid, and gave me no end of grief, eventually turning without unscrewing, so it was just going round and round, yet still the fair lead wouldn't come off. The camera is wobbling, by the way, because it's on the pontoon, and I'm jumping around with frustration. I have muted the sound in part for the sake of your sensitive ears, as the air was turning blue again. Brute force is always my next solution, like a true narrowboat mechanic. It still didn't want to come off though until this screw head had also snapped. That left the stump of the screw refusing to move. Something was trapping it in the metal. Using the pliers didn't work, it just went round and round. So I attacked it with the multi-tool, which didn't shift it, but cleaned the area around and revealed a certain amount of filler on this bit of the narrowboat rail. While I was there, I took the opportunity to sand back all the grotty rust and paint around the area, as I'd want to treat it all later anyway. Another tool was called for though, and this one made short work of grinding through the recalcitrant screw thread, leaving a tiny stump which I banged back inside the metal. As it is so fantastically, stonkingly warm, I'm not going to apply the Furtan rust treatment straight away. It would just dry in seconds, I think. So I'm going to wait till this evening when things have cooled down a bit, and it's supposed to be quite mild overnight, so the Furtan can get to work overnight, and then I can stick some primer on, well, midday-ish, I suppose, tomorrow. Well, it's nearly 6 o'clock now and a lot cooler, so time to apply the Furtan rust treatment before we lose the light completely. Furtan is funny stuff. It sounds contrary to all logic, but the instructions state you need to make the rusty spot damp before putting the Furtan on. And indeed, if it's dried out just a couple of hours later, to go back and squirt with water again. Well, if that's what it wants, then that's what it gets. And so, like a master of fine art, I set about dabbing the treatment onto all the sanded spots. Here are some sample bits after Furtanning. Yes, that is a verb. The Furtan's now had 22 hours to work its magic, which should be enough in this temperature, and what you have to do now is wipe off any excess with a damp cloth, and then you can put paint on top of it. I'm going to start with some red oxide type primer. And this is me wiping the loose or excess mess off the treated spots. Right, that's all wiped down. Now I can paint, if I can get the lid of the paint tin open, which is another matter entirely. It's a well-used and rather old tin of primer, so of course the lid's stuck down like glue, but a gentle bit of screwdrivering, yes, that is also a word, eventually got it off. I could then dab it on like painting by numbers, where there's just one number. Easy. And I don't even need to be that precise, because ultimately it'll all be gone over with a fresh top coat. Note to self: when painting the other side of the boat, where there isn't a pontoon, don't be tempted to step off backwards. Almost did, and almost gave myself a heart attack, as well as a dunking. A day or so later the first coat of primer was dry, so I gave all the spots a light sanding, before going over them again with coat number 2 of primer. Then I dug out an old tin of undercoat and did 2 lots of that, with light sanding in between as well. Finally I went over with the duck egg blue that I'd used before. Ultimately, having done these temporary touch-ups, the next step would be to paint over the whole lot with a fresh coat of paint. Irritatingly, the rusty spots had, of course, and I hadn't taken this into account, left little craters in the metal, which became more apparent after painting. These probably need some filler. Or, my shoddy but easy method, lots of paint. Meanwhile, the top coat in blue on the side rail is the right colour, but needs a darned good polish out to make it smooth in with the rest of the boat. And then, of course, I noticed a smattering of other rusty bits that I'd somehow completely managed to overlook, so it was back to square one with those. Unfortunately, one thing I didn't take into account when I started touching up all these spots in the satin duck egg blue is that actually it's quite shiny paint, and I hadn't noticed it when I just had the one spot done, but now I've got a lot of spots. When the bright sun hits it at a certain angle, it is absolutely blinding. So if I do the whole top of the boat in that, and the sun hits it while I'm steering, I'm likely to crash into something because I will just be absolutely blinded by it. That is a problem. What I really need is some kind of matte light coloured surface that will reflect the light off, so keeping the boat cool, but reflect it in a sort of diffuse way so it won't blind me. I have tried a patch using what I thought was going to be a matte mushroomy sort of colour. Turns out it's even worse than the satin duck egg blue. So at the moment I'm at a bit of a hiatus, but I have had a tip off about some boat paint that is quite a matte finish blue, and I'm going to get a can of that and see if that does the trick. For the moment though, that is where I'm going to leave it, on a bit of a cliffhanger to see how I sort the problem. Cheers for now, bye bye.